Well, welcome everyone. I'm getting started a little early, so come on in. I hope you're doing all right. I'm seeing some familiar names and faces, so welcome. And I see Mason. There he is. I am going to make you a panelist, Mason, so you can help us answer the questions and get started. You want to say hi to everybody, Mason? Oh, he's coming. Hang in there, everyone.
Oh, there we
There
go.
he is.
Ew,
Hey, Mason, how are you?
I'm great. How is it on the other side of the wall?
It's good.
Wonderful.
It's a little more prickly on my side than it is on
I
your
see
side.
that. I
Yeah.
see that. Very blurry over here.
It's very blurry over here. Hey, Carol, good to see you from Maryland. Why don't everybody tell me where you are from and where you're dialing in? Some of you I know, but some I see some new faces too. We have a tremendous number of people on this webinar tonight. Apparently, artistry is very much in everybody's forefront, and I'm excited because this is one of my most favorite workshops to teach. And
This
I
is
love it.
Lisa's wheelhouse.
It is. It is. It's like if I could take all my favorite creative, fun, artistic things and give them all to you, but also let you create your own thing, this would be it. It's like low stress, lots of fun, very mental game oriented in a good way. And it's just a good time. It's definitely a good time. And while we're doing this, I'm going to share my screen for a minute while everybody is getting kind of jumped on, so to speak. I'm going to share my screen. Mason, is that sharing? Can you see my screen
I
okay?
can see quick announcement.
All right, perfect. Well, I do have a quick announcement while everybody's getting dialed in, and welcome for those who are here. Um, we had just in the last, gosh, less than 48 hours, I think, somewhere right in there. We had someone that unfortunately had to back out of our sold out Magic of Alaska workshop. And so, if anybody is interested, and I'm going to put the link in the chat room as well, but if anybody is interested, we do have one seat that just opened up. It's been sold out since a year, I don't know, last summer. It is sold out, but there is one seat. And let me just grab that link for you, and I will put it into the chat room here. Let's see. Give me a half second and then we will proceed. All right, so here is the link. I'm going to drop it in the chat room. If anybody is interested, you guys can check it out while we are just getting started here. And there's the link to the workshop. It is, and if anybody's just jumping in, I'm just kind of doing a pre-Bosque photo artistry announcement. We just had somebody had to back out of our workshop, and it's opened up a seat that hasn't been opened up since I think July when we initially sold these. So if anybody is interested, we've also reached out to our wait list. But if anybody is interested, we're happy to give you an opportunity to join us in Alaska. And someone said cancellation was how I got into one of Alaska's workshops a few years ago. Yes, Carol, I remember that. It occasionally happens. People have changes of plans. A wedding comes up, a health issue, a family need, things like that do happen. That's why we always encourage travel insurance because you don't know what's going to happen. But we do try to make it easier on everybody. So we can certainly try to sell your seat if it happens. So you'd be helping someone else out. And um, Wayne, you're on a cruise. You could have been with us. I hope you have your fun time on your cruise, though. I see it in the chat comments you're mentioning that. And I certainly can take any questions about that in the there's a Q&A section. Go ahead and throw your questions in the Q&A. Chat's just kind of
Uh,
conversation. Mason, you want,
Lisa,
yeah.
it looks like they've moved Q&A. So to get to it, you hover over the bottom and then you have to click more. And then inside that
Oh,
box, you'll find Q&A. If you click on it, you'll get a pop-up for that.
okay. All right. Figures they moved that. It was such an easy thing. But then I got to
I
move
know.
stuff. Why is everything always harder and more complicated than it was before? Don't feel like anything gets easier these days. Um, but oh, Gordon, I see that you're doing a 45-day Midwest tour. Now that sounds really fun in your RV. Sorry you can't join us in Alaska, but that also sounds like a pretty good alternative plan. So anyway, we are just about 4 minutes from getting started, and thanks to everybody who's joining us. And if you are wondering what this screen is, I will get started on the Bosque del Apache workshop in just a minute. I'm Lisa Langell, if you don't know that already. And we just happened, literally in the last, I think, 48 hours or so, had an opening for our Magic of Alaska workshop. And we've sent out a note to our wait list as well, but we thought it'd be a good time to also mention it because it just popped up. If anybody is interested, you can scan the QR code, or I will put the link into the chat window and you can take a look at that event. And it's first come, first serve. So when it's gone, it's gone. They usually don't last long when this happens, but you are welcome to join us. We'll have a good time. And I am just going to wait a couple more minutes to get started. But if you are new in the room, since I asked this last, go ahead and tell me where you're from. I always love seeing where everyone is coming from. So just chat that in the chat window. And I see we've got Fargo, North Dakota. Welcome, Gordon. We've got Ohio, Maryland, Texas. And Nancy, if you're asking when the workshop is June 7th through 12th in Alaska. We do, and this, if you're wondering what I'm talking about for those that are just joining in, because I see there's constantly new people jumping in. This is not a webinar about Alaska, but I just happened to have an opening and I thought I would talk about it while everyone was just getting situated. We just had this opening pop up, one seat for June 7th through 12th. That workshop is all about babies. So it's birds and babies. Yes, we will also do a day of bears, but you are going to be photographing sea lions, northern sea otters, eagles, baby birds of all different kinds. We're going to be doing whales. We have, oh my gosh, what else do we have? We have sled dogs that we're going to be doing this amazing experience up on the top of a glacier with some sled dogs. And the photography. Holy cow, the photography is just amazing. I don't have all of that in this PowerPoint because that's not what I was initially planning on talking about tonight. But we do something very different every day, and it's just a phenomenal opportunity. I personally love June. It's my favorite time to be there. And anyway, we have one seat that just happened to open up. The link is in the chat window. I'll paste it in again in case anybody needs it. And Carol just mentioned, because she's been with us before, the Glacier Sled Dog Excursion was so much fun. It is. I have had so many people tell me it's one of the top things they have ever done in their life. And these are people that have gone on tours all over the world. So we do a very custom thing up there, and it is just fun. And hi, Kathy. I see you chiming in. Hi, Wanda, Penelope, Deb. Gosh, lots of great people here. Hello from Mount Holly. I love it. All right. So we are at 4:59, and I will just let this screen hang out there for one more minute while everybody jumps in. And we are going to get started. If you see me always looking off to the side, I have two screens, and one has my chat window in it. And that makes it easier for me to chat with all of you and see who's saying what. So anyway, welcome to those who are here. I appreciate that you're here. And we'll give this there. We're going to have, if you're wondering, you're not at the wrong presentation. There's the Bosque screen. We are going to be starting that right now. It is now top of the hour. And I appreciate, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a second so I can actually see everybody. And I see the hellos from Lynn and Deb and Marge and Kathleen. Good to see all of you. Nice to have you here. I also have, and I am going to make him a panelist as well. Dan, if you can show your face for a quick second. Uh, Dan Walters from Colorado. There he is. Well, there's his picture. And I think he's got his webcam. There we go.
Okay, now I'm on. I
There you
wasn't
are.
I wasn't
Hey.
showing up there.
Sorry about that. Thing is you always show up, Dan. You're like
That's
the
right.
most
I'm always
reliable
here.
person. You
I'm
are.
always around.
I love you. It's like you can always trust that Dan will show up and be there for what you need. You are very
Yes,
reliable.
yes.
Hi, Warren. I see Donna and Charles. Hello from Montreal. Nice. We got another country represented. There are a ton of people on this webinar, and a ton have registered who I know can't come tonight. But I always get good numbers from my webinars, but this one really, I was excited to see how many, like hundreds of people, how many are interested in this event. So let's get this show started. And by the way, one last thing, if anybody was interested in the Alaska workshop that I just mentioned a moment ago, we have one seat left. It came up for sale this week because someone had to cancel, and there hasn't really been many seats open from cancellation since we released this last July and sold out. So if anybody's interested, that link is in the chat window, and we can help you. Couple things as we get started. This is recorded, so if you have to leave early or you had a friend that wanted to listen to it or whatever, you want to hear it again, we are recording it, and you will be able to get that recording in the mail likely tomorrow, right, Mason?
Yes, either day, most likely tomorrow. I'll try tonight, but sometimes it takes a while for it to get processed. So most
Yeah.
likely tomorrow.
Yeah. So we'll get that out to you. And I don't know, that's about
I
all
would
I
say
have to.
just cover the Q&A again real quick.
Yes, so there are a couple of things in the Q&A window. There is or the Q&A box, and you may have to click on the whole chat bar that you see on your screen. You may have to tap more, and then once you do, there will be a Q&A box. It may already be showing up for you, but there is that Q&A. If you have specific questions about the webinar, about the things I'm talking about, use the Q&A box because that way those questions stay front and forward for us so that we can answer them. They're literally in a separate window for us. The chat window scrolls up just like it does for you. And if you put a question in there and about three messages later, I can't see it anymore. And so the Q&A is where you want to ask questions or, ask me to talk about something further, something like that. Other than that, it's just chat from everybody. And I love seeing that, but it scrolls up quickly and I easily can miss your question. And I don't want to do that. Um, let's see. I think that is about it. I'm going to go ahead
All
and
right.
share my screen.
All right. And
And
I think Dan and I will bow out, and I'll come back on when you're ready for some questions.
okay, that sounds great. And Dan, you know what? Let me do this really quickly before we completely have you go, Dan. I have a
Mhm.
slide, but better than a slide, it's, we can see each other. For all who are considering this workshop, Dan is my counterpart for my workshop. And, you know me for the most part. I mean, I can introduce myself if you need to. I'm Lisa Lanchow. But Dan and I, how long have we been doing this together, Dan? Three
It's been a
years?
few years. Yeah,
Yeah.
we first did a workshop together in Florida during the
Yes.
Photo Fest.
Yes.
So, and then I just started doing more years, and it's been a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to this. This is one of my favorites too, is the Photo Artistry Workshop.
Me too. I feel like it is it's like a week of play,
Oh yeah.
it's not
Uh-huh.
like, oh, okay, well today we got to get up at 4 a.m. and we're photographing, this and then that and then the other thing, which is also wonderful. The wildlife photography workshops I love. But this is a totally different mindset. And I
Hmm.
see Catherine Donker. She said, Dan is great. Catherine was on
Thank you,
our
Catherine.
last workshop. Yes. So, Dan, do you want to just tell everyone a little bit about
Yeah,
yourself?
my name is Dan Walters. I'm from Lakewood, Colorado. And, when I first started out in photography, I went to school for photojournalism and sports photography and kind of gravitated toward bird photography because there's so much action. It reminded me of sports photography. And then started working with Lisa, and it's been fun trying all these different other types of photography. And during this workshop, that's what we're going to be doing, is all kinds of different things. There's no shortage of what we're going to be playing with. All the settings in our camera, we're going to be overexposing, underexposing, using slow shutter speeds. We're just going to have a whole lot of fun.
We are. It is a very refreshing workshop from kind of all the traditional things. And it's a great way, I think, we started in January, and it's a great way to, I think, reset for the new year and kind of come at things with a fresh approach. And of course, we have our guidance, and I see another one, Debbie Callahan. Thank you. She goes, Dan's very knowledgeable, and his photos are awesome. He is. I mean, and this is why I
Thank you,
love.
Debbie.
I love working with Dan because, first of all, we shoot two different things. He shoots Canon. I used to shoot Canon, but I shoot Sony now for the last several years. And we both see things in a similar way, but
Mhm.
also in a different way.
Right.
Neither of us are afraid to try anything. We're both pretty low key when it comes to working with, people. I hate feeling intimidated and nervous when you're talking to someone, and neither of us do that at all. Like it's just fun and have some support, and we're going to teach you a lot of things, and we're going to encourage you to try a lot of different things as we go along. Always good to work with you, Dan.
No, but yeah, ditto.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get this party started. For those that just came in, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. I appreciate you being here. And if you just came in, just please note that there is a Q&A box and then there's a chat window. And you may have to click the little more button on your, the little bar of options that you have in Zoom to show that Q&A box, but that is where we need your questions and answers. Anything else you can throw in the chat window, but if you need me or Dan or Mason or somebody to answer a question for you, that's where they get queued up for us to look at them and they don't get lost scrolling up into the chat window.
Exactly. I just wanted to clarify. I won't be checking the chat box. I'll be checking Q&A. So make
Okay.
sure you put your questions in there.
Yes, definitely. And if you're watching after the fact, and when this is recorded and it's tomorrow or whenever you get the chance to see this, if you do have questions, please email us and we'll be happy to help you with those too. All right, so photo artistry. Uh, this is a passion project for me. I really love this whole concept that we've created with this workshop. It's unlike any other workshop that I've personally seen. There's maybe little bits and pieces from other things, but we really package everything and help you really reframe your photography. These workshops are designed to not only enhance your photography skills, which we will be teaching some exacting skills, but it helps you transform the way you view and capture the natural world. And that's what I find is so fun. Um, there was a couple of years ago, there was a very well-known photography workshop leader. And I tell this story every year because to me it just told me I was doing the right thing. And this very well-known photography workshop leader was standing about 15 feet away from our group, and he had his group there. And I know him, like I've seen him in the circuit, right? But I don't know him well, but we know enough to say hello and all of that. So while everyone was photographing, I stepped back for a second and he came over and just struck up a brief conversation, hi, how are you? And all that kind of stuff. And he says, man, he says, I am having a really hard time this year. He said, the wildlife just isn't kind of hitting it this year like it has other years. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I said, I've noticed that a little bit. And he's like, I'm just having a really hard time finding things for my group to shoot. And I'm like, oh. And I didn't want to say anything because I don't want to insult him. And he's obviously leading a different workshop than we are too. He's very wildlife focused and all the traditional things. And, Dan and I were talking about it later, and I was like, oh my gosh, our people have not stopped shooting. There are so many things to photograph and ways to think about photographing them that it's been incessant. And it just really illustrated to me the mindset going in. If you're only looking for a certain thing, you're going to waste a lot of time if that certain expectation isn't there. And it just told me that we were definitely doing something in the right direction because all their people, not that there weren't birds to shoot and things like that, but all their people are kind of shooting the same thing every day, and we're doing drastically different stuff. And I just think that's a great analogy to go in, a story to go into this workshop with. Of course, Dan and I will be there for you. But I'm going to start this off as something that is near and dear to my heart and very important. I want people to be able to understand this. This is not your standard nature photography workshop. This is not something where you just, I say in every one of my workshops, the world does not need another picture of a sandhill crane against a blue sky with tack sharp everything. Like that picture has been done a billion times. We don't need another one. And so we're going to be working on something different. But if you just think we're there to photograph the cranes, um, you're mistaken. Yes, we will definitely photograph the cranes and the snow geese. I'm not saying we won't, but understand that we're going to move beyond that. And that is one part of the pie. It is not the sole goal. You could go and just photograph cranes at Bosque del Apache yourself if you wanted to, and some of the other areas that we go in the region. But if you want to really develop a creative innovation to your photography, then this is what we're working on. And like I said, this is actually a creative discovery process. It's not just your standard, shoot the same things in the same way that we've always done. And that's what I really love about this. And this picture is a great example. So this was Dan, our workshop co-leader, walking down the road at a place called Bernardo that we go. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. We used different light, we used textures, we used a composite in this case. I don't do a ton of compositing in this workshop, but we can talk about it. But just seeing things in an entirely different way. And so, who is this workshop artistry? Who is photo artistry, I should say? Who is photo artistry for? Got a lot of people on the line tonight, probably wondering if it's right for them. So, this workshop is really designed by me for those who desire, first of all, the permission to create boldly and artistically. Sometimes just getting the permission to do so is important. A lot of us get stuck in, and it's not a bad thing, but we kind of have a mindset that is really driven around winning contests, competition, calendars, magazine publications, those kinds of things, which have very specific requirements in order to do well in those competitive situations. This goes beyond that. Yes, you can certainly enter and even enter some things in the creative categories too. I've had many people do very well at my workshops with those things. But this is more than that, and it's different than that. So if you're just looking at getting a standard competition winning photo of a bird in flight, you can probably accomplish that here. But we are really going to be working beyond that. I really want to push you creatively. I want to give you skills so that when you go out in the field, you no longer have to say, oh, there's nothing to shoot. That you have the mental flexibility to see potential in everything and execute that. And that's one of the many things that we cover. I want you to feel like exploration is valued over perfection. So many workshops will go and it's like, okay, we're at the end of the workshop, show your very best image, and it's here's my perfect this and here's my perfect that. That's great. But what we're going to be going for, I'm going to already assume many of you know how to capture pretty good birds in flight. And if you don't, we'll certainly teach the skills to help with that because it builds on some of the things we then want to teach you afterwards. But my goal is to help you perfect, if you will, and even that's a strong term, but to develop and have a mindset around how do I access the creative side? How do I push further through mental barriers and um, things that just get you stuck in a rut? And that's what I really want, so that no matter where you go and what you do, you can create something. I mean, you could go in your backyard and, have a field day all afternoon if you wanted to creating. That's what I'm going for with this. And I want you to feel like process is celebrated as much as the results. I am really going to hope that you are going to get some outstanding images. And on the last day, we do kind of a little show and share. And then we also have a webinar follow it up about a month after the workshop where people can showcase some of the things that they've created. And that is great. I want that. But I want you to know that the process is just as important. And the creative ways in which you got to a place and captured an image, that has real value. I want you to be able to feel free to challenge the conventions and redefine the rules. I no longer operate off of just calendar and competition rules. Those are great. And what I want you to think about with this is if you are a competition person or a person that likes to get published in magazines and calendars, and you've kind of learned all the traditional rules around that and try to adhere to them, those are great. That is a whole language unto itself. And I'm not saying get rid of that. What I'm saying is let's go learn another language in addition to the one you already know. And that language is going to be around pushing yourselves artistically, creatively, thinking about other places that your images can go, not just competitions and calendars and magazines. And I want you to feel free to challenge those kind of standards, if you will. It's really fun and it puts you in a different mindset and far more creative than I think sometimes we're allowed to be as nature photographers. So creativity and creation to me is better in this case than imitation. A lot of times, if you go to a workshop, the leader will show you, you know, the most amazing images here or there. I think of Yosemite images, and how many times have you seen Half Dome or the Grand Canyon or Death Valley or, pick the places that you want to go. In Arizona here, we have Antelope Canyon, and there's some very iconic images that come out of Antelope Canyon, and everybody wants to go there and get theirs. This, you can certainly do that. I'm not going to ever say you can't take a shot, but this kind of takes a left turn from all of that, and we're going in a new direction. I want skills that help you to spark your original vision and not just replicas of somebody else's shot. So we're really going to go for pushing the boundaries and you being innovative. And it's a skill. It doesn't happen overnight. I always am working at mine, and I'm always feeling like, oh, is this going to be okay? Is this good? And I hate having to question whether or not my image is good, but on the other hand, I think it's good that we live in that little place of uncertainty and put things out there anyway, just to see. I put an image out this week on Facebook and Instagram. I don't know if anybody saw it. And I was like, it's an abstract and it kind of challenges normal convention. It was a composite. It just kind of broke a lot of the rules, if you will, of traditional photography. And I was like, oh, how are people going to react? And I got like three times the compliments of another picture that I posted earlier in the week that I thought was amazing. So you never know. And I kind of like living in that place a little bit. So this workshop is designed for those who trade perfection for possibility. Experiment without apology. We are going to do a ton of play in this workshop. My favorite question to ask people is, what if? Well, what if you did this? Or what if we tried that? Or what if this happened? Or what if, what if, what if? And I really try to encourage people to do the same. We're going to value discovery more than just outcomes. And I don't mean to say you're not going to have amazing images when you leave. You will. But the point is it isn't just dialing in the perfect setting to get the perfect image of the perfect bird flying in the perfect light with the perfect background and all that. We are exploring, and you're going to learn a ton by doing that and kind of being really good at something because you've done it a million times already. Then you don't need me for that. You don't need me to say, well, here's how to photograph a perfect bird in a perfect background and perfect light and all that. Been there, done that. And maybe some of you still want to do that, and you can. It's your workshop, your time. But I really want you to feel like you're going to discover on this workshop new things that you've never tried before. We're going to break rules with purpose, and we're going to challenge what a good photo really even means. And again, create instead of copy. This is going to be your originality, and we're going to make art, not just another photo. And I do think photos are art, but we're going to do it with a little twist and leave with your vision, not just images. I want you to be able to walk out of our workshop on the last day. Boo, I hate it when people leave, but on the last day and feel like, hey, I have some new tools that I can use to go out into any situation and find it, whatever it is. Find the right light, find something creative I can do, find a piece and a part that I could use in something else. Find, and not be bored with your photography. And once you kind of get into the groove with us, it's amazing how people go from feeling stuck to all of a sudden the time allotment has went by and they're like, oh my God, I could spend another hour here shooting this same thing. And that's what I love. Like now we've cracked the code, so to speak. And so a little bit of little quote for you. Making an image doesn't require certainty, only your willingness to try. And this was a good example. It was snowing. There were these weeds sticking out of the snow, and I was like, oh, it's kind of an abstract. I don't know if it'll do anything. And I shot it on like, I don't even remember anymore, 22 or something to that effect to get all the little weeds in focus in the snow. And I really liked the simplicity and the abstract of it. But after I shot that, I watched every single other person walk. And this was not a workshop that I was doing, this was somewhere else. Every single other person just walk by this, and you're not seeing what's there in front of you. And we help you see what's in front of you. We're also going to learn some artistic related technical skills. So we're going to capture birds in flight using slow shutter panning techniques. Dan and I both excel at that, and we are going to help you. There's certain tricks that I have found other photographers don't teach that are really going to help you with this and get those shots. And I'll show some examples of those in a little bit. Reconceptualize your use of light, shade, composition, form, and exposure. All these things, we use them, but then we go and push them and see what else. And again, I'm always like, what if? What else could we do? What else is there? Is there more? What if we took another step further? And we're going to explore that. We're going to do some intentional camera movement. Some people call it shutter drag, where you get those soft, gauzy images. Again, I'll show some of those in a little bit as well, for creating ethereal images. That's a lot of fun. This is a great place with great subjects to use for intentional camera movement. We're going to do high key. I know many people love the high key, and as long as we have the right weather and light for it, we're going to do it. Some weeks we have a lot more weather that is conducive to photographing in high key. Other weeks we don't, but we still can eke out some at certain times of the day, even when the light isn't ideal for it. So we'll be teaching, which is also a great lesson to learn, by the way, but we'll be teaching that as well. Silhouette photography we'll be doing, as well as backlighting. So I kind of think of silhouette and also backlighting to be something that we will work with. And techniques for photographing abstracts as an art form. I love abstracts. There's plenty to capture there. And then post-processing techniques. This is not a heavy, heavy Photoshop type of workshop or Lightroom. We don't spend all day sitting there doing step by steps, but I will show you some things, and then I also have some videos that I'll send with you at the end of the workshop so that you can remember some of those things. And then we also do a post-workshop Zoom meeting, and I can demonstrate some things on images that you send to me, going, hey, can you help me kind of take this image and make it amazing? And I will do my best, and everybody can learn from that. And we'll still do traditional nature and wildlife photography because there are times when the light is just exquisite and all the things come together, and that's what you've got to use. I mean, that's the time to use that. But we will often try to coach you in ways that will make you think a little bit differently or move in a different way to capture something more beautifully. And so we'll always help you with that. But the goal isn't just to live in that traditional nature photography world. The goal is to do that and a whole bunch more. Another little quote for you. Exploration sharpens instinct faster than perfection ever could. And I really agree with this. We are going to hone your instincts and hone that ability to see things that aren't immediately apparent. And I love that. We're going to do some things that will induce your creativity. We have daily exercises planned to push that creativity and have you execute those exercises either in the classroom or in the field or both. We're going to have activities that help expand your mindset around what an image should be. And we really need to kind of move more broadly than just that. Here's what it should be kind of thing. We're going to learn how to better discover new approaches to innovative compositions. We're not just going to do all the traditional things. We want to try some different things. I want to maybe help you photograph something that would work well as a diptych or triptych, or do different things compositionally, do different things aspect ratio wise. Really be thinking in some creative ways with that. using natural light in different ways. We're going to learn how to reframe our exposure choices. We spend a lot of time rethinking exposure. It doesn't always need to be zero in the middle of your meter, and we will spend a lot of time playing with that and understanding the effects that those things can have. And it's not always a bad thing to really underexpose or really overexpose or play with white balance or 100 other things, but we'll be reframing those exposure choices. We're going to move away from those traditional rules around photography, and it's okay to do so. There are other ways that we can use photography that aren't wrong. They're just more creative and more liberating in many ways. We're going to experiment and play. So I'm going to stop here for a moment and just see, Mason, are there any questions so far in the Q&A?
So far, no questions.
All
Uh,
right.
oh, we do have one in the chat. I'll just
Okay.
remind everybody at the bottom of the screen, if you hover and click the More button, you'll get the option for Q&A. So put your questions in the Q&A box. But the question we had in the chat is, do you offer the course online for those of us who are in different countries?
Oh, that's a great question. Not yet, but we have plans to do some of these things online, and Mason and I are actively working towards that goal. So hang in there with us, and we do have some plans to do. It may not be like this exact workshop, but some other ways to offer these things to people down the road.
All right. We've got a question from Christina. Would it be better to take a traditional photography class to hone the basic skills before taking this class?
A good question. It may depend on how developed your skills are, but here's where we start. And we certainly can help people. I mean, it's a small enough group, and we have Dan and I together. So, we certainly have had people come with a variety of skills. I would say it's not required. But what we tend to do, some things that will help you, at least for the scope of this class and the subjects that we're going to be photographing. Um, I would say a fairly solid knowledge of manual settings. So if you shoot shutter priority or aperture priority, yeah, we can still help you with that, and we'll actually try to nudge you into some manual or manual plus auto ISO, try to move you further in that direction so you feel more comfortable. We've done that a lot on our workshops. If you're comfortable with manual settings, you'll be great. If you The one thing that I would say in addition to the skills is if you will need a fairly long lens, I would say 100 to 400 is minimal, 100 to 500 is better. If you have 100 to 600 or something around that range, that is also wonderful. And that's probably, and we'll be using some other things too. You're going to use shorter lenses, wider lenses, and all that. But I would say a lens like that can reach 400 to 600 millimeters, preferably at least five, would be most helpful. And I know it's not a skill, but we'll get into equipment more later, but I just wanted to mention that. Feel free to ask more if you have more questions around that.
All right. Joan asked, I think you said this session will be sent with additional resources. Is that correct? Um,
I don't know what.
I'm not exactly sure what you mean, Joan, but we will send out the recording, and I will include the link to the registration pages. I'll make those live when we send out the recording. You won't be able to book a seat, but you'll be able to see all the information about the event, and it'll have everything. But Lisa pretty much covers everything here as well. And
Yeah.
then Joan also asked, do you ever do anything with phones?
Yeah. In fact, we use phones at our workshop quite a lot. Not not at the replacement of your, I'll call it your big girl camera, right? The adult cameras that we'd use,
Or big
but
boy
your
camera?
big boy camera. My favorite quote to say is your cell phone is like a $1,600 camera or whatever you spend on it. It has a lot of great possibilities and a lot of great things that we can do, and we are definitely willing to help you with that. Luckily, Dan's an Android shooter. I'm an iPhone shooter, so we can kind of tag team with that. And
Mhm.
there are absolutely things that you can do with your cell phone, and I encourage that. It is a tool, and you might as well use it.
That's a great macro lens too. It's
Yeah.
amazing how close you can get to some of the stuff that's on the ground or for shooting even textures and stuff like that too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have fun with our phones. In fact, Dan, we should just have like one outing only phone. But
Oh,
then,
there you go.
you'd see something, you'd be like, "Oh my
Yeah,
God, I need,
true.
but you always have your phone with you and it's always an option and I encourage that. Yeah.
For sure.
Uh,
And never forget video. Pull your
yes.
phone out
Yes.
and capture video. That's my
Hmm.
thing. We have one more quick question, Lisa.
Yes,
The earliest dates I see on your website are January 2027. Is that correct?
that is correct. And we'll get into those dates and things here as we go along for what the workshop is and all of that. But here's where we're going to be. And this is important to pay attention to. We're going to be in two primary locations. The first one and probably the one that we are not at as much is Bosque del Apache National Wildlife Refuge. This place is known for its wildlife, the scenic riparian landscapes. It provides the perfect canvas for us to practice and showcase these skills that you're going to learn. It is truly wonderful in a lot of ways. But I want to make something clear in case you're talking to somebody about this or have heard about this in the past. The last few years, Bosque del Apache National Wildlife Refuge has run into some water issues. The water has, and this is from the park rangers and administration that I've asked directly, the water has become more salinic, meaning it's more salty in the groundwater than it ever used to be. They're also more restricted. The Middle Rio Grande uh, River Conservation District, I think I'm saying that right, has reduced in many cases the water allotment for many of these kind of refuges and things all along the Rio Grande in New Mexico. And that has caused problems, as you can imagine. The water wars are warming up around the Southwest and this is part of it. So they have not been able to grow the corn that they usually grow to feed the cranes there. The national parks also, the National Wildlife Refuge also cannot use GMO corn. They have to use non-GMO corn, which limits their options even more. And so the birds, as far as the cranes go, they're not there in the numbers that they used to be. It actually doesn't really affect our photography much because I go to Bosque and take the group there to do the other things. There's other wildlife things to do there. There's a lot of creative photography options there for some of our artistic stuff that we're doing. And I'll talk about the second location, which is where I love to go for the cranes and a whole bunch of other stuff. But if you're wondering, oh, I've heard Bosque is kind of, slow the last few years. Yes, you are correct. And no, it doesn't affect our photography at all for the design of this workshop. It gives us other options and it's two locations. I hope some days the birds will be able to come back. They are testing new types of crops to feed the birds that are a little more salt tolerant. But the corn, they plant it and only grows about a foot and then it dies from the salt. So they're in the middle of trying to sort that out. But it really doesn't affect us. We have plenty of cranes at the other locations that we go, and we're also not here just to photograph the cranes and snow geese. You'll get a lot of that, but we're going to do some other things too. So it actually doesn't affect us at all. All right. So what can we capture at Bosque? Well, traditionally people have photographed the cranes, and so have I. I've been going there since I think 2016 or 17. But here are some examples. Now, this is a more traditional shot. This is a javelina mom and baby in gosh, just one of the little areas that we were photographing as we were driving along, and it's super cute, right? These are an animal that are native to the Southwest. They are the only native pig type animal, and actually they're more closely related to hippopotami. But these are just darling. They're super cute, and these are something that we can photograph there if we run into them, and typically we do. But that's the traditional stuff. We'll always take that when the opportunity allows itself to, do so. There's also mule deer, occasionally bobcat. There's coyote. Sometimes there's fox. There's other things there, and we certainly will stop for that if we see that. But then we're going to be doing some other things. So this is actually a two-image composite with a texture. The texture is photographed in the National Wildlife Refuge, and the tree is photographed in the National Wildlife Refuge and then processed to just be a monochrome. But these are some of the things that we can take an ordinary tree. We do so much work with trees because A, they're predictable. I know they're going to be there. B, they're great ways to explore the skill sets that I'm trying to teach folks. And you can come up with some really beautiful things. So this is one example of the tree. I'll come back to this tree in a little bit. This was the image I posted onto social media this week. This is a two-image composite of literally weeds. And it was two intentional camera movement shots of weeds and combined in post-processing and a little bit done to it in post-processing. But this is something I promise you can do, and we can teach you how at the workshop. This is another area we do high key at Blue Hour, which gives you these gorgeous pastel colors. There's a lot of beautiful color in Bosque del Apache in the wintertime, all these muted earth tones that I just adore. It's like my favorite color palette. But when we photograph in high key at Blue Hour, you can get some of these really soft, nuanced, beautiful pictures. So here's that tree again that I showed you 3 slides ago. Same tree, okay? So that's just a documentation shot of the tree, nothing special. But from this perspective, we can do things like this. We can do things like this. This is a vertical version. Here's another one. We can really play with slow shutters. We can play with experimentation and movement and create some great things that you wouldn't think of creating just from that tree. And there's more, but that's just a quick example. Here's another completely abstract shot created from that same tree. So I'm really going to help you. And there's so many more ways that we can do this than just the 4 that I've shown you. But I really want to help you understand that a tree just isn't a tree anymore. There's so many other ways that we can think about how to photograph that tree. Um, Here are some at the botanical garden portion that we're going to be photographing, and this was just a backlit black and white, but understanding how to capture this light, how to use that kind of light, what can you do with it? I mean, this is a little more traditional style picture than, an abstract, but it's not immediately apparent that this would be possible to capture, and we will show you how. Here's 2 more trees, but using the silhouettes, we're going to be talking a lot about silhouettes. We'll, certainly photograph cranes in silhouette as the opportunities allow, but we're going to be looking at how we can use silhouettes and capture them in different ways. And then the one on the right is an intentional camera movement photograph. And by the way, these are all raw shots. I'm not this was black and white, but things like this and this and this and that, those are all raw. We haven't even gotten into the artsy fartsy stuff if you wanted to do that. Those are raw. This is processed in black and white. The one on the right is raw. The one on the left is raw. Um, Abstracts. Now, this is an agave plant, but we're going to be showing you how you can make creative abstracts with this and how you can use the light to move people's eye from one side of the picture to the other, how you can create interest and layers and a whole bunch more. This is another one from the botanical gardens. So this would be a low-key shot, and we'll explain how to capture this. So that's a little bit about Bosque. There's a lot more to it than that, but that just gives you some ideas of what some non-standard images might look like. Most people, when we're out shooting, most people will drive by and they'll look at us all pointing at something. They're like, "What are you shooting?" And we'll be like, "Oh, that rock over there," or that tree over there. And they kind of give you this like disgusted look, like, "Okay, that was a waste of my time." And I'm laughing because they'll be driving around trying to look for the thing that everybody shoots, which are the birds. And meanwhile, we are having a field day doing other stuff. And that's what I love. So, also, you don't have crowds that way. But the second location that we'll be at is the Gordon Waterfowl Complex in Bernardo. This is another state refuge, not a national refuge. And it's particularly famed for both the winter gatherings of snow geese and sandhills, and it really makes our ideal spot for wildlife photography. I personally really love Bernardo quite a bit. There's other places in New Mexico where the cranes go. It's not just one place, but I specifically like this location for a variety of reasons. So intentional camera movement and panning are two things that we do using slow shutter speeds. Now, this isn't actually a panning shot. They're all flying at us. This was from this past winter in January when we were just there. But I'll teach you how to capture a shot like this, providing the opportunities exist, which usually we see several blast-offs of geese when we're there. Here's another one. Now, this is an extremely slow shutter, but just getting a very ethereal kind of look, where I'm actually panning up and down as opposed to left and right. And these birds kind of they almost look like paper airplanes, something just a little bit more abstracted. And that can be really fun. There's lots of ways to think about how to do this. Here's your more traditional panning shot where we're tracking the birds and the background gets streaky. The birds' heads are sharp, most of them, and the wings have that softer look implying motion. And we will spend a good deal of time mastering this technique because it is not easy, but we have some tips that will help you. And I haven't had anybody walk away at the end of the workshop and not get their panning shots. So this is good. We'll also try a technique called Pep Ventosa, and this gives you this very kind of painterly style. And there's also a little bit of a canvas texture on this, but it's just a fun technique, and I will teach you how to capture it, how to process it, and more. And if you haven't heard of Pep Ventosa, he is an artist from Spain who now lives, I believe, in California, and was kind of known for originating this technique. But it's very fun. You don't have to do it with trees. You can do it with a variety of things. This is just an example. Here's another one, intentional camera movement, but just being more creative and thinking through things in different ways. We will work through exercises like that. Here's another panning shot of the cranes. And yes, I will type his name and please put these questions in the Q&A because I may not see them. I just happen to see this one pop up. Uh, and there is the name of the person who did the tree that I showed you a minute ago. Well, he didn't do it, I did it, but he was the originator of that technique. And then we'll still, take opportunities if there's a landscape that works well or something. I mean, we don't ignore the obvious golden moments. This was just up, we are in a bosque area, which means a riparian area that specifically is more forested. So bosque, Bosque, really is a riparian area that is more heavily treed. And so when there's opportunities to photograph, really pretty little sun star there, backlighting, all that. We'll certainly do it. But we'll take things like this ordinary tree, row of trees, and we will play with all kinds of stuff with just these trees and come up with really neat ideas. We can do intentional camera movements. We can do a variety of different things. We'll look at, sometimes it snows there when we're there, and we can look at snow patterns and create very interesting kind of semi-abstracted images from that. And then, yes, I'm going to teach you how to use backlighting well and photograph so that you get these warm, beautiful, soft images. The crane was calling, and you can see the steam coming out of his mouth. Just a really cool little moment there. Cold literally and cool photographically. Again, more backlighting, but there's excellent opportunities on many of the days to capture some of this beautiful backlighting. We'll work on that. And this was a magical moment. This lighting only lasts for a few moments. If we can get it, we will definitely photograph it. Nature delivers the light. It's just up to us to use it the best way we can. And this was one of those moments. So we will, I mean, I kind of consider this, it's evocative, it's emotionally evocative. It somewhat falls in that more traditional range, but we are going to help you think through different ways to photograph those things. And then our third venue, which we may or may not spend much time at, just depends on weather and other factors, is just the city of Socorro, New Mexico, which is smack dab in the middle of our two shooting locations. One's roughly about a half an hour south, one's roughly about a half an hour north. And then the city is where we spend our time. And it's the central hub for our workshops. It has, restaurants, stores, all the things that a small town would have, but it works really, really well for us. And there's a lot of historical kind of what do I want to say, importance to this town as well. It goes all the way back to the Spanish explorers, and it kind of has this old world, new world feel, along with kind of small town New Mexico. So, we may spend some time photographing it. It just depends on our timelines and the goals for the week. All right, so that's somebody said green chili cheeseburgers at the Owl Cafe. Yes, the Owl and the Buckhorn across the street both have amazing green chili cheeseburgers. You're in green chili country. All right, so let's get into, I kind of told you what we do and where we do it. Now I want to talk a little bit about what you need to know to do this workshop. So physical fitness. The good news is that it's fairly easy. We rate it, we have a scale of 1 to 5. You can see more about that on the website when you look at the workshop. We rate it somewhere between a 2 to 3, easy to moderate. And I say moderate not because we're hiking tall hills or climbing boulders, but because we're standing for quite a long period of time often, and that can be harder for some folks. It is not all ADA accessible. There are many places where you could, you know, if you needed a wheelchair, do it, but not everywhere that we go is ADA accessible. It's easy to moderate. We may walk up to about 1/8 of a mile at a time. And that may not be all in one stint. It might be, okay, we've walked 1/8 of a mile because we've stopped 15 times and photographed something, but just know that we're going to be walking and a lot of standing. We do have a few foldable stools if people needed to use that. I do have a couple of folding chairs, but those are kind of on a first come, first serve basis. I can only fit so much in my truck when we go, and I do usually bring two of those. But if you need something specific, please bring it because I can't promise. We have the stools, and then and stools are like little folding stools that are probably 20 inches off the ground or so. And they're supportive. I think they support up to 300 pounds, if I remember correctly. But, I just want to let you know what we have, and if you need to bring something different, you can. Elevation is somewhere between 1,300 to 4,700 feet, depending on where we go. I just want to mention that in case anybody has respiratory issues. We're not super high in elevation, but there's the information so that you have it. I will say, and we get into weather, that can influence the weather that we have. We'll talk about weather more in a minute. But photography skills, someone asked this question earlier. What kind of skills do you need? Well, we do take all levels. I would say you're going to have a more productive experience creatively if you know some basics about manual settings. Even if you shoot on shutter priority or aperture priority, we can get you to the next level from there. I mean, and we can technically address all of it, but realize that we have 8 people in the group and we try our best to differentiate the instruction based upon those 8 people. And there just may not always be a second where we can, help you nonstop. So I would say at least shutter priority or aperture priority would be more appropriate. And if you know full manual, that would be even better. This is not a class on, basic settings. We do get into some more complicated settings, and that's okay. We'll coach you through all of that. But I've had folks sometimes show up at workshops of mine over the years with a brand new camera they didn't know, and they didn't know anything about any settings. And you just start out at a deficit, and we don't want you to feel frustrated. So if that's you, brand new camera and don't know anything about manual settings yet, first of all, hooray! I'm glad that you're on this photography journey with us. But you may want to take, even at a local camera store or something, some basic manual settings classes to help you prepare for this. And we'll certainly help pick up the ball as much as we can and then take you further. We do make sure everybody moves the needle. Just where that needle is when you're done, to kind of depends on where you start and what your mindset is going in. We do recommend you at least have a fairly good sense of your camera that you own. And I send out a checklist ahead of time of some things that you want to do in advance as kind of pre-workshop homework to make sure your camera and you are comfortable coming into this workshop. And that will definitely help. And Gordon also said, join a camera club, which is a great idea. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I probably speak to 200 camera clubs a year. Join a camera club to get a better handle on those things. Absolutely. Great idea. And if there's none in your area, look at meetup.com. There's often groups in there as well. We have a small group size. Our group size is limited to 8. And so you have a 1 to 4 instructor ratio, which is beautiful for this kind of workshops. The right amount of support without feeling like, we're hovering over you, but you always have someone you can ask, within a few feet of where you're at. That helps us help you better and give you more individualized instruction. And that way you can feel better. We don't get creative when we're stressed out about what setting do I use, or I can't figure out something with my camera. The creativity happens when you're comfortable with the rest. So we try to get you there as quickly as we can and help you. So travel, if you're coming to this workshop, you have a couple of options. If you are flying in, the closest airport is Albuquerque. It's the Albuquerque Sunport, and that's on the south side of Albuquerque, which is convenient because you're going to be driving south from Albuquerque to Socorro. It's about a 60 to 75-minute drive. The hotel is literally a straight drive down the I-25 from the airport. So you get on the I-25 in Albuquerque and you get off the I-25 quite literally within eye shot of the hotel. It's probably one of the easiest drives you could make. You do have another option if your airline seems to serve El Paso for some reason more conveniently. You can go to El Paso. It's about a 3-hour drive to Socorro, and that's also very easy on main roads and interstates. The workshop will begin at 4 o'clock on day 1 in Socorro. So if you're flying out that day, make sure that you can get to the hotel in time to check in and then get to the workshop. And the workshop it starts in the conference room. So, which is literally across like the hallway from the check-in desk. So very easy once you get to the hotel. I'll talk about logistics and hotel and all that momentarily. If you want to drive your own vehicle all the way there, or if you fly in and rent a car from the airport, you can do those things. And again, Albuquerque is about 75 minutes comfortably from the airport, and El Paso is about 3 hours. If you want to carpool, so maybe you want to fly into one of those airports, most people fly into Albuquerque and meet there and carpool down with someone so you're not each separately renting cars. Great. Although I can't organize that from an insurance perspective, what I do have is anybody that wants to communicate with other participants ahead of the workshop, you can check a little checkbox in your registration that says, yeah, I'm okay sharing my contact information with everybody else in the workshop who also wants to share their contact information, and you two or four or eight or however many want to can then collaborate. I send out an email once the workshop is filled, and I say, okay, here is everybody's confirmation, excuse me, contact information, and I'll let you guys organize however you want to organize independently. And then uh, you can do that as often as you need up to the workshop. About a day before the workshop, I will send out a text thread to everybody in the workshop, and we will use that text thread intermittently throughout the workshop. So I'll be communicating that way as well. And then when you arrive, we have a welcome dinner, which I will be doing along with Dan instruction. And then we break from instruction to do dinner. Dinner will be brought in to the conference room. And then we'll finish up with instruction and we'll be done with that around 8 o'clock at night. And so you have the whole day to travel, or some of you may want to come in ahead of time, which is fine, and spend the night at the hotel. If you want to do that, you can book additional nights on your own. That will be outside of what I cover as part of the workshop fee. Lodging is included in the workshop fee. But if you want to add on days on the front end or the back end, I have probably 30 to 40% of people that do that. And you can certainly do that and reach out to the whole hotel directly. And I'll give you all that information in your itinerary and planning document that you will get in your email that confirms you registered. So if you register, once you're finished with that, you'll get an email that says, congratulations, you're in. And in that is a link, and you can download that whole document and read through it carefully. There's lots of great information in there. Breakfast at the hotel. So here's the little sticky wicket. The hotel offers breakfast, but if we are to get to our shooting locations in time for blue hour, which is what we need, We have to leave at about 6 a.m., which is right when breakfast starts. And so I provide for all of you some breakfast bars, some water, soda, some nuts, things like that. That's enough to kind of get you by until we get, back and then you can do lunch. But I highly recommend going to a local store. There's a couple of grocery stores there. There's a Walmart and then another independently owned store that I love. And you can go buy some things and keep them in your fridge in your hotel room. There's a microwave, coffee pot, and fridge in the room. And I think that just works really well because a lot of people have different dietary needs and tastes, and I can't possibly imagine what they all are or provide for it in the morning. But I always have some breakfast bars. I always have, like granola or mixed nuts or things like that in little packets for everyone to take along with you. And then we depart. Literally, we leave for our cars at 6 a.m. We are out of the parking lot by 6:10, and we're on our way. And then lunch and dinner. I've learned this the hard way, with everyone's dietary needs being different these days and tastes, and the limited ability that I have to make a reservation at most restaurants in Socorro. There's like one restaurant that'll take a reservation, and you don't want to eat there every single night. Um, I can't do group dinners very easily. And then I can't pick places that, this one's vegetarian and that one has gluten-free stuff and and on and on. It's just too hard. And so I let everybody do their own thing for lunch and dinner. And sometimes people just, get some stuff to keep in the room and kind of keep it simple. Others will go out. There are plenty of new Mexican type restaurants. There's less Tex-Mex than there is new Mexican cuisine. If you like Mexican, there's a ton of it. But there are some other places as well that have some good meals. But just plan accordingly for your meals. And that way you can budget accordingly and do what is best for you and your diet. And the hotel, like I said, has fridge and coffee pot, Keurig style coffee and a microwave. And anyway, so here is the hotel. We will be staying for 5 nights. So you'll arrive on day one and you'll spend the night, and we'll do day one, day two, day three, day four. And then on day five, that's our last day. And then you leave the next day. So we have instruction every day until the very last day of the workshop. And that is literally just spend the night and leave in the morning. That way you have a full day for travel. Because I know it's often hard to, get to the airport and get your flights back to different places on the same day when a workshop is ending that same day. So, I mean, feel free if you want to leave, 6 o'clock at night on the last day and try to catch a flight, but most people will spend the night and go the next day. And that is all included. Single and double occupancy options, we have prices for both. So if you want to come with a friend, great. You can have a room with 2 beds, and there's a little bit of a discounted rate for each person if you rent as a double occupancy, if you reserve as a double occupancy. Otherwise, the standard is a single occupancy. You still get 2 queen beds, mini fridge, coffee maker, microwave. The rooms are nice. They're clean. They're, modern. I've stayed in there. Gosh, we stay there. Dan and I are there for like 3 weeks at a time. They're very comfortable. The beds are comfortable. This to me provides for what we do, the absolute best of everything, decent room. We have a conference room all to ourselves the entire time that we can use. And it just works out really well. And the hotel people are very friendly and good to us. They'll take good care of us. There's an indoor elevator, so you don't have to worry about stairs. You can bring your luggage in, use the elevator. Complimentary breakfast on the days we don't leave at 6 a.m. And sometimes it's out a little early. You might be able to grab a cup of coffee or a, hard-boiled egg or yogurt or something like that. But we unfortunately don't have the time to, sit down and have a full breakfast, or we'll miss the light that you're all coming here for. We have a
Hey, Lisa?
yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Gordon Court has a question here. He says, would someone be able to camp near the locations? We may be in the area during the time frame and it might make it work for us.
Yes, Gordon, there are a few RV locations, and if you want to email me, or anybody else, feel free and email me. I can try to put together a list. I know of a couple that probably will have availability and you could do. I don't remember anymore what the hookup situations are and the water and the amenities. Uh, but there are some campgrounds nearby that you could do for sure. They're not amazing. Like it's basically a field. It's not like you get these pretty views, but it doesn't matter because we're going to the pretty places anyway. All right, great question. I'm glad you asked that. And then the hotel is very close to restaurants and stores and more. There's only one restaurant that would be what I would say in walking distance, and that's probably, like it's maybe a 10-minute walk. Everything else you'd need to drive to, but everything is very close. Within 2 miles, you have everything. It's just a town with a big road running through it and stores on both sides. Okay. Um, any other questions, Mason or Dan, that have come up? I'm sorry that I haven't looked at that lately.
No, that was it for now. Oh, Gordon did ask, what is the city?
Socorro. I'll type it in the chat window.
And then Warren was mentioned he would highly recommend the Chupadero RV Park. He stayed there many times.
Okay. I hope I'm spelling that right. If not, it's close. I typed that in the chat window. And thanks, Warren. Appreciate that.
Perfect. And if anyone has any other questions, just head to the Q&A section. In the bottom panel, you can click the More button, and then Q&A will come up from there.
Yes.
But as of right now, oh, we do have one more from Dennis. How do we
Yes.
sign up? And I think
Yes.
Lisa's getting to that shortly.
I'm getting to that shortly. Bear with me. I'll try to hustle this along. But yes, I will get to that very shortly. The schedule overview. So, kind of moving around, what do we do during these workshops? This is a high level overview of our schedule. Day one from about 4 to 8 p.m. That's the introductions and dinner in the conference room. Days 2 through 4 will depart at by 6:10 a.m. And that means in our cars leaving the driveway at 6:10. We leave the hotel by 6. And, by the time you load up your gear and carpool and all that. And by the way, you're all welcome to carpool with each other during the week as well. Most people do that, and it makes it more convenient for everything. But you don't have to. But 6:10 to 9 a.m., we are in the field. At 9, unless there's something truly epic happening, we will leave and we'll come back to the hotel. We get there by 9:30. You get a short break, and then from 10 to 12 is instruction time in the conference room. From 12 to 2:50 is lunch on your own and break on your own. From 2:50 to about 5:45, we're back out in the field photographing. And then we return at about 5:45, which is roughly just after the sunset, so kind of as blue hour ends. And then we'll return and it's dinner on your own. You don't need to follow me back to the hotel unless you want to. But we will caravan to make it easier for everyone. Some people say, hey, I have a harder time seeing at night. No problem. You can just follow us back. Um, and then day 5, we will depart in the morning like normal, return like normal. And then from 9:30 to 2, you have a little more time. That is your break time, and you can prepare a few images for our review that we do in the afternoon, lunch on your own, and then we do instruction and kind of some other activities between 2 to about 6 p.m. And then the workshop closes, and you're able to go to dinner and you're on your own. Spend the night at the hotel. The next morning, you leave at your leisure. Checkout is at 10 a.m. And we, of course, send you all of this too and review it. So, but this just gives you an idea of the pace of the day. And here's a little bit about what participants have said. I'll, I'll, I'll just preface this as you read that we have had extremely strong reviews on this workshop. I don't think we've had anything other than a 5-star review. Um, it it just has touched people's soul. And Dan and I talk. We have had multiple people at the end, the closing of the workshop, cry. And that's because this has moved them so much. It's touched them. They have reached a new level in their photography, kind of scratched an itch that they needed. It's been restorative for them. And I take that as the hugest compliment. So, but anyhow, these are just a few of the reviews. You can see more on our website if you're interested. But people have just been really, really positive about all this. And of course, if you want to read these more, you can go on the website or watch the video again to do this. And one thing I will say throughout all of this is that Dan and I are there to support you. Um, we both feel, all of us, Mason, Dan, and I, my whole team actually, even people you'll not meet on that workshop because they help us with other workshops. Our dedication is to you first, and I mean that sincerely. It's not lip service. My goal, Dan's goal, we want to help you get the shots. It's not that we don't take our own. But the difference is we never take one at your expense. If you need help, we're there. We stop and check on you all the time. How are you doing? Any questions? Anything I can help with? Do you want me to look at any of the images on the back of your camera? Is there anything, are you struggling with? All of those kinds of things. We're there to help. If everybody's happy-go-lucky for a while, yeah, Dan and I will shoot for another few minutes along with the rest of you. But the second we sense you either need help or we just kind of stop periodically and ask because we know some people don't like asking. I tend to be one of those people, so I try to be very conscious of asking if others need help. We are there to help you. Our goal is to get you awesome shots and a lot of learning in this opportunity. And I see Carol made a comment in the chat room. She said, I can second that. Lisa and staff are great and helpful, extremely organized. Thank you. We work hard at it. But that's our goal. We feel like you paid for a service. We want to deliver that for you. We don't want you to just feel like you're coming along on our photo shooting trip and we'll help you when we're done. That's the last thing that we don't want. Doesn't matter if it's Alaska or here or Magic Cowboys or hummingbirds or anything else that we do. That's our approach to it, and I feel strongly about that. So here's a little bit more about what we capture. And while we won't ignore an excellent wildlife moment, which we won't, I mean, sometimes things happen. You're like, I just have to take this amazing shot. Yes, do it. And this would be one of those. Like I joke, the world doesn't need another shot of cranes against a blue sky. Well, here's cranes against a blue sky, but it was a pretty moment with, the hints of cranes in the background as well, the colors, the mountains, everything. It was just a beautiful shot. And I noticed the compliments in the room. Hi, Pat. Good to see you on here. Pat just came back from this, and Debbie Breen was also there. I appreciate that you said those kind words. We really do appreciate it. So we won't ignore these kinds of opportunities because my gosh, they're amazing, and I want you to get those. This should be a well-rounded experience for you. We'll do silhouettes and we'll do some of those traditional stuff, but then we're going to move into abstracts. And we always strive for that creative twist to what we do. So, even something simple as photographing a tree can be so pretty as an abstract in silhouette. And we can also do things with this in post-processing that I'm not showing here. But just simple moments like that, most people are ignoring. Reflections in an interesting way. Here's another reflection in an interesting way. This would be high key, but we are going to play with these opportunities when we have them. And I think they make great art on the wall, which is a whole other conversation that we'll have while we're down there is, how does all this work and what's different from a magazine photo, from a photo on the wall and, and it's not a whole workshop on making art for your wall, but I will touch on some of those things and give you some inspiration around that. But even things like this, or if you did a composite where it was, behind some wood grain that you photograph out there. This is an abstract id picture of, a tree with snow in it. It was just so soft and simple and pretty. But I don't know, the trees lends itself so well to creative photography here that we will use them a lot in our photography in some really fun ways. We can do intentional camera movement. I mentioned earlier that that was something we would do. Here are just some examples of intentional camera movement. This is a blended version of intentional camera movement. Here's another one. Here's a really fun concept where we're taking intentional camera movement photographs using texture, using tree silhouettes and more, and creating some fun composites. And I think those look really beautiful on the wall. So I also want you to be thinking in this workshop of not just does it look good in a calendar or a magazine or a competition. We're so used to looking at things like that, but it can take on a totally different feel and look when it's in its right home. And to me, this is the right home for that image. We'll do high key where weather allows. So I love doing high key. This is another high key-esque shot of a landscape. I love doing high key, and we will do that. We'll do it in blue hour when the light allows. We will do intentional camera movement to just give a more painterly feel to things. We will do high key and we could even have snow. I always get excited at the possibility of snow. It doesn't happen all the time. I think this year we had like three snowflakes, but there is potential there in the winter time. That's why I love January. That we can get some snow and do some creative shots with the snow and high key and the geese. The geese, the cranes. There's another high key image of a crane. People say don't shoot, bird butts. I think this is a great shot. I love the way the bird is looking onward. You've got the foot motion, the high key, the little bit of water that you can see there. Beautiful. Excuse me. I love this. This is at Blue Hour as well. Soft, ethereal, beautiful. Let's use light in different ways. We'll talk about that. But using light nobody else is using is one of the things I love and I'm sort of known for is what can we do that nobody else is doing in this time and make it excellent? Here's another one that's a little bit more vintage style. So high key, but with those warmer tones, really pretty and simple. And just using the landscapes and the birds in the landscapes, so often everyone's getting the tight shot. There's a bird standing, there's a bird flying. Let me get the tight shot, the portrait, the standing there, the whatever. And I'm like, use the environment. It's so pretty with these warms and cool tones together. Oh my gosh, the soft kind of golds and the blues. Beautiful complementary color on the color wheel. Awesome in a home. This is beautiful. So we work on those compositions. Panning and shutter drag, being able to capture pictures like this, or this, or this. This was coming in for a landing. Or this one, kind of a blend of high-ish key and ICM, just really beautiful. Intentional panning, 13th of a second. So we're really doing some low and slow shutter speeds with these flock of snow geese, but really pretty as that intentional, the panning really softens those wings and gives it more of an ethereal feel. We're going to play with exposure and do some really unique things as well to create different looks. I showed you that picture before, but we'll use some textures. There's another texture over images. And this may not look like something that you're used to. I get that. But when you start putting these things in homes or other places, the images take on a life of their own that can't, it, I don't know how to quite say this, but the rules around and if you know me, you know me, I've said this before, but the rules around competitions and calendars and magazines are very different from rules and guidelines around what works well in homes. There's some overlap, but there's a lot of difference. And we're going to be talking about all of that vocabulary. There's more places for our photos than I think sometimes what we're sort of conditioned to believe. But we can even take a simple shot like this, which I would argue if I said, hey, look at this amazing shot. You probably would say it's okay at best, right? Not too exciting. In fact, there were people walking by as we were shooting this, and they were like, "What are you shooting?" They thought there was some bird in there, and I'm like, "Oh, just the tree limbs." And they looked at me like I was crazy, which they could maybe be right, but anyway, but you take this simple picture and you put it in the right environment. Watch how that perceived tree changes. It's stunning in that home. And that's what I'm talking about. How can we look at things through a different lens and think more globally about what we're doing and why we're photographing something to begin with? And Judy, thank you so much. She says these workshops are so wonderful. Everything Lisa has said is actually true. Judy came 2 years ago, and she also won a competition at Bosque, a photo competition with one of her photos, and I happened to see it on the wall this year when I was there. So that was pretty awesome. So, a few of you are wondering about dates. So here we go. The workshop 2027 dates will be January 7th through 12th, January 14th through 19th, January 21 through 26. And to answer the question that many people ask, is there a better one or a worse one to go? Absolutely not. The birds are there. The weather may vary, but there is no rhyme or reason to why. We could have snow any of those weeks. We could have temperatures in the 60s. Uh, we could have temperatures at zero. I don't know, but typically temperatures are in the teens in the early morning and warm up quickly. into the 20s and 30s, and then up into the 40s and 50s and sometimes 60s during the day. So I kind of say dress in layers, plan for cold. You can always take it off. So what is included in this workshop? The pre-workshop webinar, which is not this. This is actually a separate webinar that we have just for registrants. And we go over things in more detail, answer your questions. I also teach some things in that pre-workshop webinar. And we also have some pre-workshop tutorials that we can send you, especially closer to the workshop. There's the welcome dinner that we do on the first night of the workshop. All of that's catered. We have snacks and beverages in the morning and during our breaks that we provide you. The conference room that we meet in daily always has snacks, like always. We always have a variety of things to address most people's dietary needs. And we also have a variety of beverages, water, the kind of those flavored sparkling waters that you see like LaCroix and those kinds of things. And then we have soda. And so all that's included. And then lodging. Your hotel room is included for the entire workshop span. If you want to add more days you can at your own expense contact the hotel directly. I don't arrange that part just to keep it from being confusing. But that also includes your classroom instruction and the field instruction, the post-workshop webinar that we will do approximately a month or so after the workshop, giving you time to process some things and get home. And those are all included. Here is the cost for the workshop, $43.95 for single occupancy, $40.50 per person if you're sharing a room with someone else. By the way, if you know of the other person and you're sharing, great, you can register that way and you can indicate to us who you want to share with. Each person can register separately, and then you tell me who you want to share with. I'll make sure you're matched up. If you want to register, like maybe you got two friends or it's husband and wife and you're registering, you can just choose two people and both register at that moment. But if your friends registering separately, it tends to be easier to register literally separately. That said, if somebody wants to register and they want to just pay for both seats to just take care of it all in one thing, you can pay the deposit for both seats. And then there is something called contributions. And the person that basically owes you the rest of the money can make contributions in our system for that. So if you know in advance, yes, Susie and I are going to be registering together and we want to stay in, or we're going to be registering, we're going to be staying in the same place, one person can register for both, pay that initial deposit for both, and then you have payments afterwards. But you can have that other person make all the contributions they want towards that. So you work out who owes who what, but they can make contributions through the system. So it keeps it a little cleaner for you. And then if you are getting a single occupancy, but you want to bring a spouse or a friend or a sister or whoever, you can if they're not a workshop participant, they just want to come along for the ride. They can stay at your room and no extra cost, but they just can't participate in the workshop. So, if you want to carpool with somebody else, they can take your rental car and go drive around and explore and do different things or kick back at the hotel and watch the football game or whatever. They just can't participate in our workshop environment, but they're free to do what they want and certainly stay in the hotel room. It is no extra cost to bring an extra person. Okay, this is the last question that I think someone had is how do I register and when does it open? So registration opens this Monday. So what is it, Thursday? So 4 days from now. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Monday, March 2nd at 7 Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain in Arizona. If you live in Arizona, you know we don't do daylight savings, but for a few more days, we are on Mountain Standard Time. So Monday is still Mountain Standard Time for Arizonans. 5 o'clock and then 4 o'clock Pacific. And you will go to the langelphotography.com photo/artistry link. And Mason, maybe you can plop that link in the chat window just so people can see. But you will get an email as well. Make sure you look at your spam and also your inbox for our emails in case they get hidden in junk or something. But Mason, do you want to talk a little bit more about that registration process and how it opens and what people do?
Yes, so on Monday at 7 Eastern, everything will go live. So right now the buttons are grayed out. Like I said earlier, we will send out with the recording links to the registration page, but that page will say unavailable until Monday at 7. But right at 7 o'clock, all of that will go active. You'll be able to go in and register. We've actually reduced the amount of information needed at registration because these do tend to sell out pretty quickly. So now it's really just asking for your contact information. Once you're registered, then you'll go back in and answer a lot of the questions we have and sign some things. But it's a pretty smooth process. Uh, Other than that, I think that kind of covers everything with it. It at 7 o'clock, right on the nose, it'll go active. I think Bob just asked how quickly do these tend to fill up. It's pretty quick, Bob. They tend to sell out within the first couple days. So if you're able to get a hold of your friend before Monday, that would be great. I would expect it to sell out pretty quickly.
And there was a question, I try to put the Q&A questions in the Q&A box, but this person said I can't on my Android. She asked if we register as a shared room registrant for that little bit of a discount, can we match you with someone? And absolutely, we can do that. What we need is somebody else registering wanting to do the same thing. So if I have another single participant who wants to share, I'd be happy. If I have two individuals who want to share who are separate and don't know each other, yes, I can do that as long as you both register that way. The one little hitch is if I end up not having someone of the same gender register as a single, I will have to automatically upgrade you to the private room registration and price. So, and I wait until the workshop's full before we make that decision. But if for some reason I don't have a match for you, because I don't put two different genders together, if I don't have a match for you, then we will just automatically upgrade you to the single price, single person price, and then you'll know you have your room. But yes, we can certainly do that to the best of our abilities. Are there other questions,
There
Mason?
are. Are you ready for them?
I'm ready, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen just so I can see all of you, and you don't have to stare at a screen
Well,
anymore. So,
it's just me and Dan.
well, I know, but it's
That's all you can see. But I don't blame you for wanting to see us better.
I know. I'm
All
sorry
right.
that you don't feel the same way. Maybe I should stop staring.
All right. We'll just start from the top. Marty asks, can you talk about the weather and temps in January? I've been to Bosque 3 times in December.
Yes, probably not too much different from December, depending on when in December you were there. Typically, I kind of touched on this earlier, but we have had the extremes. What are the extremes? Well, the extremes have been -5 all the way up to, I would say, in the 60s as a high during the day. At least in the times that I've been there in January. -5 is unusual, so is 60. Typically, temperatures, I would say on a clear day in the morning when we get to our locations are somewhere plus or, 15 plus or minus 5 degrees. And then it quickly warms up because we're just there like right before the blue hour starts. And then as that sun comes up over the horizon, it warms up pretty quickly. But it is chilly in the morning, first thing. So dress in layers. We send you a whole list of things to think about, but you know, gloves, those hand warmers, heated gloves, some people love those, heated vests, some people love those. It's chilly, but it's not chilly for long, typically. And then during the day, it's, in the 50s to maybe even 60s sometimes. I find I'm peeling layers off as we go along. Um, the weather, as far as precipitation, can be anything, but it tends to be dry. It tends to be clear to partly cloudy. But I have had rain. I have had snow. We had some amazing snow last year, a year ago, not last month. And so, I kind of say be prepared. We give you again a packing list of what to think about to pack to be prepared. But hopefully that'll help with the weather.
And Lisa touched on it. Once you do register, we send you a document that has everything you would need to know about this workshop. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, Lisa.
Yes. So when you register, you will get an email confirming your registration. So if you sign up and you get a message on your screen that's like, okay, you're done, you're registered, within a few minutes, there should be something, it's automated. It's not something we send out, as we get time. It's automated. You'll get an email. It'll say, welcome and some wording. And in that is a link that you can click on and download the training, or excuse me, the planning and itinerary document. And if you miss it, I have an automated email 2 days later with the same thing. So you can click it again. So we
It's
really
very
try to make,
important.
yeah, it's very, very important. Please take a minute to read through it when you get it. There are things you'll want to do in advance to set up your camera. There are things you want to do to plan. You want to make sure you have the right equipment, the right lenses, all of that. All of that is covered. We certainly can answer more questions for you. Just shoot us an email. But I think we have it pretty dialed in. It would be a very unique question that wouldn't be answered in that document.
And we also host another webinar for the
Yes.
attendees before the workshop to answer any remaining questions that there might be.
Yeah, we want you to feel good when you come and feel like you have time to prepare and we're not sending you stuff at the last minute, or that you come in uninformed. That's not our goal. It's not how we do things. So,
All right. Next question is from Bob. I get the impression that tripods are not called for on this tour with all the attention to ICM.
yeah, I would suggest bringing one. There are times when you might want one. I would say that 80% of the time you won't need it, but it can be nice, especially for shooting the birds in the morning or in the evening. Holding your camera like this, waiting for the action, can get tiring and for some people can get painful. And so tripods are very helpful if we're in an area for a long period of time to just take that weight and stress off of you. And there are moments when we will need it. I can think of a few situations where you do absolutely want a tripod, but it's not like you're using it all day long. The other thing is, we are never far from our cars. So, although I said you might walk an eighth of a mile, that would be the outlier. Most of the time, we're within 50 feet of our car, maybe a couple hundred feet. We are never very, very far from the car. And so you can always, leave it in there or take it back there or switch out gear. You don't need to be carrying heavy backpacks and all of that stuff around.
Okay. Warren was asking if we had pricing for people that stay in their RV.
Warren, I would have to get back with you on that. I don't have that figured out. I'd have to look into that. If you would like to send us an email, um, I will type my email address in here. Then we can research that and look into that.
All right. Nancy had asked what the deposit amount is. I don't know if you know that off the top of
Oh
your
my
head. I
gosh.
can look.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead
I
and look,
forget.
Mason.
Yeah,
I
I'll
do
look it up.
too.
I forget.
So many different things I forget too. I don't want to misspeak. But you do have a deposit and then a payment plan so that you can make two additional payments. So it makes it a little easier on you. And in our system, as long as you enable that option, you can have it auto bill. So, put your credit card in there and then the dates and it'll say in the on the website what the due dates are for those subsequent payments. Again, I don't have it memorized because we have so many different things. I can't tell you what it is off the top of my head, but you can have it auto bill, so you don't even have to think about it. But if you want to manually do it, you will get an email reminder if you're forgetting kind of to pay, and it'll say, "Hey, it's time for a payment to be due." And we also will reach out to if for some reason you miss it. I know sometimes people are traveling in other countries, can't access email. We'd make several attempts to contact you before we would ever cancel your reservation due to non-payment of those payment plans. So don't panic too much about that.
All right.
Kath,
Deposit is $1,000
okay, very
to
good.
do it booking.
Um,
Okay.
And Mason, there was one that
Oh,
came in the chat room that I just happened to notice. Try to put him in the Q&A, but I realized somebody's phone might not be allowing that. But how many people per workshop? 8 people and 2 instructors.
and Anne was asking about do we pay for this at the time we register? So it's I think we set it up $1,000 at booking, and then there are two more payments.
Yes. And those are spread out over the course of, I think the 9 months leading up to your workshop. I might be slightly wrong on the dates, but roughly three payments over 8 or 9 months before the workshop.
All right. We had another question on how many people in the workshop. It's 8. Um, is there a reduction in cost if using lodging other than your lodging? I think you covered that.
Yeah. And I don't, I'd have to check into, we've already booked a lot of this stuff with the hotel. I'd have to look and see if there's any penalties or anything for that. So I have to uh, get back to you on what we could accommodate. Certainly email us. I just put my email in the um, chat window. Let us know, and we'll have to do some research on that. The hotel does give us a pretty good discount. So the discount, I mean, it would be something, but it wouldn't be like several $100s a night or anything like that.
And we do utilize the conference room at the hotel a lot.
Yes.
So
Y-
if you're not
Yes.
there, it can be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right. Bob asked, I may have missed this. Will there be a link to this webinar that I can send to my friends? Yes, there will. So to no later than tomorrow, Bob, I will send an email out with the recording and it'll have links to the registration page. You won't be able to register till Monday, but you'll be able to see all that information and your friend can watch this webinar and see all that as well. Christina mentioned it's a dry cold. It definitely is.
Yeah. It is cold, but it gets warm quickly. It's not like you're in the deep freeze all day. Once that sun comes up, I mean, it is like a miracle. I mean, it's palpable. You just instantly feel warmer. And so, it's maybe the first, I'd say, hour of the day that can be chilly, and we just dress accordingly. And so, and Mason, there's a question that came in the chat window. Um, the cancellation terms. So all that's spelled out in registration for you to look at it in depth. But essentially what we do is once you make a payment, and we have three payments, that is no longer refundable. And so, if you made one payment and then you had to cancel your trip, you're out that amount. If you made two payments and then had to cancel your trip, you're out that amount. If you made three and then had to cancel, you're out that amount. That said, as I showed in the beginning of this webinar, we have one seat for our Magic of Alaska workshop that popped up because someone had to cancel a couple of days ago. We will try to resell it for you. And oftentimes we have success with that. But, sometimes people cancel right before the workshop starts, and I can't resell that seat on a moment's notice because most of the time people already have other plans or they can't get a flight in, or the flights are ungodly expensive on last minute. So the earlier you cancel, the better luck we have trying to resell it for you. Again, full details are listed there in the registration and on the web page that you'll see. The other thing is, I'll say this regarding travel insurance. I highly, highly, highly recommend travel insurance, not just because you might cancel when, it's a couple months out and something came up, whatever that might be, but also while you're there. And I say this just as a rule for all my workshops, but occasionally people get sick and occasionally things happen, or a spouse becomes very sick and they have to fly home, or there's some other emergency. And I've had people had to disband from the workshop because they can no longer participate due to those emergencies. Your travel insurance will cover that in most cases. Look at your details on the travel insurance itself to make sure what you think needs to be covered is covered. But I highly recommend it because although we do our best to resell seats, I can't promise it. We definitely do our best, but you just have to kind of hedge your bets as to what's going to make the most sense for you. But we certainly try if we can. And I will also put that link in the chat window if anybody is here that wasn't there initially and is interested in the Magic of Alaska workshop. We do have that one seat that just came open on the week of June 7th, and I'll pop that in the chat window as well. It could even be taken by now, I don't know, but I will put that
If
in
it,
there.
if it if it says sold out, it's taken. But if there's one seat available, that's up for grabs still. So Dan
Yes.
can answer this one while you're typing. Are waders or waterproof boots recommended?
I would take some. I know just last January we had some rainy and some muddy days, or not really rainy days. We had some muddy days. So
Yeah.
I would definitely take those. That way your feet are protected as well. So yeah, definitely take them if you got them.
Yes. You wouldn't need waders, but the mud.
Oh
But
yeah, for
yeah,
the yeah.
yeah. We're not going
Yeah,
out in
the
with the cranes. We'll stand next
Right.
to that.
waterproof boots are nice.
Yes.
Um,
Oh, and Carol said it looks like the seat might be taken. I looked and I thought, oh, it's still open, but I might not have looked in my email right. So, um, anyway, I'm not sure.
all right. Oh, Kathy. Kathy asked, trying to figure out finances and timing. Will you have the cowboy workshop in the fall?
Do you want to answer that, Mason, and what we're planning
Yes.
on for
Well,
that?
we're working on it. That's the best answer we can give you at this point, Kathy. Right. Right now, we're taking them one workshop at a time, but we definitely plan on doing it. We just don't have the dates and everything in order yet.
Yes. And that Alaska seat is actually still open according to what I'm seeing on my website. So, if anybody's interested, snag it while you can.
Okay. Um, Someone was asking what are the dates and costs for Alaska. You can find that if you click the link Lisa's put into the chat window.
Yes.
Food options. Rebecca asked, are the food options at the hotel better than the Hummingbird Workshop?
Well, they're about the same. The breakfast, actually, I'll take that back. The hotel breakfast, of which we can't partake most days because of our schedule. And I know people are like, well, it's only 10 minutes. Yes, it's only 10 minutes, but the sun, I can't change when it rises. And if we delay it, we miss some of the best light you often can have. And so I can't move this another 10 minutes for us to scarf down a breakfast. But the hotel breakfast is actually pretty decent. For free breakfast, it's pretty good. Uh,
Hmm.
that said, they don't have anything else. They don't have like a restaurant in there. They have, I think, a vending machine. So I would recommend, this is what Dan and I do. I recommend going to, Walgreens or the John Brooks grocery store. I actually like the John Brooks. It's small, smaller. It's still a nice full grocery store, but it's privately owned and I don't know, it just is a little more convenient. But whatever you prefer, go there, pick out some things that you like and bring them back to your room and store them in your fridge. You have a microwave, you have a Keurig coffee pot. The other thing that I'm a big fan of doing is going out to dinner and either, ordering something that you can bring half home and have the next day, or ordering a second entree that you can warm up. A lot of Mexican food warms up really well. Um, and then we also have a list of restaurants that we put in our packet when we send you that planning and itinerary document that you click the link and get when you register. That also has a list of the grocery stores. If you need, amenities, if you want, restaurants recommendations, all of that stuff is in there as well.
Excellent. Yeah, and what's different than hummingbirds are there are restaurants right there, right around the corner. You
Yeah.
don't have a long way to go.
Yeah. And for those that are wondering what the deal is with hummingbirds, we're at a remote lodge in the national forest. And so by, national forest laws, there can't be a restaurant. So if you wanted a restaurant, you have to drive about 30 minutes down the hill to get one. Or same thing, they have kitchenettes. You can bring in food, make food, bring in, takeout, whatever, to last you through the 3 nights that you stay there.
That is all the questions for now. If anyone has any more, plug them in now. Otherwise, we can wrap this up.
That's right. I do really appreciate everyone coming tonight. I really hope this has been helpful. And hi, Lynn. Good to see you. I hope I see you one of these days. Lynn from Australia just saying hello. And I miss you too. And cheers. And Lynn, I will never forget our boiled bagel joke at Yellowstone. That was just one of the most funny things I've ever had happen. And I see Bob saying a note. Good to see you, Bob. Dan, good to see you.
Oh, great to see both of you. So
Yes,
I'm
and
looking forward to it. It'll be here before we know it.
it
That
will.
goes fast.
And if anybody is looking for something to do, Mason and I will be speaking at Photoclave. If you Google Photoclave, photography event in, in the Morro Bay area of California, uh, what is it? Santa, I forget the Santa something.
All right.
I'm
West
so
Coast.
sorry. Yeah, the West Coast. One of those Santa towns. Anyway, we will be speaking there in a couple of weeks. I will be at Merritt Island for Out of Chicago, not this weekend, but next weekend. And then I will be at, along with Dan and Mason, at St. Augustine for the Florida Photo Festival. We've
Mhm.
got some fun things planned there. So if your
Yes.
travel's taking you into those areas, come and say hello and maybe sign up for a class or workshop, field workshop. We got a lot of stuff coming up. All right. Well, Mason, thanks for running the show behind the scenes. Dan, thank you for being here. And I'm going to let you guys go for the evening, and hopefully we'll see you in New Mexico in January.
All right,
All right,
everybody have a good
everybody.
night.
Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.